Hello and welcome to Spread Book Joy. Today I'm going to talk about TBRs. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jack. If you're not new, welcome back to Spread Book Joy. And today I've got to talk about TBRs. First of all, an update on my physical TBR, because a few months ago I decided to count it. And yeah, I had 107 books. I made a number of rules. I didn't count unread classics, and I've got quite a lot of those because I just counted my sort of contemporary fiction and my all the different genres of fiction apart from classics. So I counted all the physical books, and the reason I did that was because I was getting lots of books sent to me by lovely other people in the book community, and I hadn't read those books yet, and they weighed on me a bit of guilt, because when I send someone a book, it's like sending them a piece of your heart. You want them to read it. Now, I never put pressure on people to read the books I send straight away, because I understand when you get a book someone sent you, you don't have to read it straight away. But you do want to read it. You don't want to leave it sitting there for years. Someone has bought you that book. They've given you something that was very dear to them. So the books were piling up. I'm a mood reader, so I don't necessarily, I might go into a bookshop and buy 8 amazing looking books that I want to get to, and by the time I've read a couple of them, I'm not in the mood for the others. I'll read them at some point. So my books have backed up over the years. I'm also someone who just loves books as objects, right? We're all bibliophiles here in this community. We all love books. So I definitely am someone who loves books as beautiful objects, things that I love to collect, no matter what, whether it's an old crinkled old paperback, whether it's a beautiful new edition. I just love books. So the books were piling up. I decided to take my head out of the sand and count them. And it was a good video. I enjoyed that video. It actually did get quite a lot of views. And I was inspired by Alice over at Alice and the Giant Bookshelf, who has a massive TBR of over 200 books, and she's got a mission to not buy any until she gets that physical TBR down. So I'm like, yes, you're right, Alice. I'm going to be inspired by Alice. Count my physical TBR. Counted it. 107 books. I won't go into the whys and wherefores and how I decided what to count and what I did. I'm going to direct you to my other video. Anyway, 107 books, and that was back in August, beginning of August, 3 months ago. I didn't count my Kindle books. I didn't count my audio books. I've also got some other subscription services on the go. But what I am going to say to you now is I have got all these subscription services. I've got this massive physical TBR, and from this point on, I am going to give myself a real book buying ban, because I had this physical TBR I wanted to get to, but then October happened, a few things happened that I wanted books for, so I bought 4 more books. I bought the Beekeeper of Aleppo, and I bought, I can't even remember the other one, but I definitely bought Cranford, because I thought I needed Cranford for October. Turns out I had a copy of Cranford in my classics that I hadn't counted, so I've got 2 copies of Cranford now. I also bought a copy of War and Peace, and it's the Penguin Classics edition for the read along, and I needed this specific edition. And I do have a copy of War and Peace, but I needed this specific edition, so I bought this. I have also since bought Kindle books. I've spent my Audible credits. That doesn't count, by the way, but I have bought Kindle books that haven't been on Kindle Unlimited. But I've just got to stop. It's just not just because the amount of things I've got is getting out of control, but the money I'm spending, I just can't afford to do it at the moment. So that's going to be my mission at the moment, is to stop buying and adding to my physical TBR. So I added 4 books, which brings me up to 111. But what have I read of that physical TBR? Well, I had a look back at my most recent reading since August, and of that physical TBR, I've only read 9 books. So I had 107, I bought 4, brought me to 111. I've now read 9, so I'm 102. So that's pathetic, really, in the grand scheme of things. Though they are, lots of them, the majority of the books that I read were books that people had bought me. So I have been prioritising those. So I need to get to grips with that physical TBR. I need to do it. So this brings us on to TBRs in general, and Shelly Swearingen made a really interesting video about how her TBR videos stress her out as a booktuber. She's put it a lot more eloquently, and she talked about it at much more length, but I said I wanted to respond to it because I have a love-hate relationship with the TBR. So TBR, if you're not familiar with the term, stands for to be read, though if you're watching this, I presume you do know what it means. But it's become something, hasn't it, in this community. It used to stand for books to be read. And I've always taken a TBR as books you physically own or you've got on your Kindle, books that you own that you need to read. And TBRs also come to stand for the books that you want to read. So we see TBR videos for readathons, for people. Some people have a TBR every month of books they're planning on reading. So it's not just become books that you've got that are waiting to be read. This is a plan of reading. So it's become this kind of expectation of, this is the pile of books that I plan to read for this readathon for next month. There are TBR games online. I love watching those, by the way. Loads of people have TBR games like Play Your TBR Right or TBR Pursuit or I don't know, I've seen all these variations of TBR games. There are TBR jars. There are all sorts of things. And it's actually really exciting to watch. The most recent one that I took part in was the BookTube Spin, where you took a pile of 20 books from your TBR and the BookTube Spin. So much fun. I'll link the video down in the description box. Can't remember who does the BookTube Spin right now, but it was a lot of fun. So I am a mood reader, and as a mood reader, I have not been someone who posts lots of TBR videos. I've posted them for read-alongs and readathons because that's fun. I want to take part in readathons, and when you take part in a readathon, you have to plan it. You have to think about what you're going to read because you have to fit prompts, or you have to fit a theme. So when it comes to things like that, I do like TBRs, and I also like the idea of a TBR as a shopping list. Misha over at Books and Sushi, who hasn't been on for a while, and I hope she's okay and still watching and still like enjoying her reading, but she talked about TBRs as window shopping. And yes, I'm also a person that loves lists, so you'd think I'd be someone who posts a lot of TBRs, but I don't. And I agree with Shelly on it. Actually, as a booktuber or as a member of an online book community or someone who runs a bookstagram, if you post a TBR or a pile or a video, then there seems to be this expectation, this pressure to read these books, and I don't want that in my life. I've come to a conclusion that actually the stress that I was getting from TBRs and from the expectations to read a lot is just taking and sucking the fun out of it. And having a BookTube channel makes you feel like you need to get lots of reading done for the channel. But I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to read for me. So yeah, in terms of TBRs, Shelley, I am with you. TBRs shouldn't be this thing that we think we set ourselves this expectation and we are going to read all of these books. They should be piles of possibilities, as lots of people call them. They should be window shopping. They should be something you take delight in making. But I personally, as a mood reader, I could make a TBR and just never stick to it. My TBRs I've made this year for Jane Austen July and for Victober. Victober went well because I knew I was going to be busy, so I didn't over plan what I was going to read. And my TBRs for Jane Austen July didn't go well at all. I planned loads of stuff because stuff I really wanted to read, but life got in the way. So my response to the whole TBR conundrum is, if you treat it like window shopping, if you treat it like a pile of possibilities and not pressure to read these things, then you'll be a lot happier. And that's what I'm planning on doing going forward. So I don't often talk about what I've got coming up, plans for reading, and I do talk about them a little bit in wrap-ups because regardless of the fact that I'm a mood reader, I do love all the reading events that happen on BookTube, and I do love buddy reads. But going forward, if I'm going to take part in a reading event, a readathon, a read along or reading event or a buddy read, it's going to have to be something that I already own. So that's kind of like a random rambling about TBRs, rambling about my update on my physical TBR and my reading plans going forward. So currently, just a quick update on War and Peace. I've finished part 1 and I'm going to be doing, I think, some regular mini vlogs, not vlogs, but just mini reviews of each part as I go, because I want to chart this journey. So that was a really rambly video. I said to Shelley I was going to do a response to her video. I don't know if I've really responded to anything you're saying, Shelley, but just rambled my own thoughts about it. But it was also a bit of an update on my physical TBR, how pathetically it's going with getting that down, and my thoughts going forward for what I'm going to do in terms of reading and buying books for the foreseeable future. So Do you have a TBR? Do you like making TBR plans? Piles of possibilities? What are your thoughts on it? And if you're a booktuber particularly, do you feel pressure when you post TBRs to read all of the books on the TBR? Do you feel guilt if you don't? Let me know in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. If you've not been here before and you like this rambling nonsense, I don't know why you would, because it literally is rambling nonsense today, then consider subscribing for more rambling nonsense, and hopefully I will see you again here soon. Bye.